Hello, my fellow gamers! Welcome back to Comfortable Gaming. We're talking the best Star Wars games on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, to really epic modern Star Wars games, to cult classics that just changed the genre of gaming and one of the best Star Wars games of all time, to Lego great Star Wars game to check on. There's so much to choose on Game Pass. Like and subscribe. We do everything Game Pass on this channel. And starting with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, this is on Game Pass. And what a great game this is. The really great story. You play Cal Kestis, who's hiding from Order 66. The President takes just after Order 66, and you're hiding from the Sith and the Inquisitors. The game takes a really great blend of Souls games with its combat and stuff, dodge mechanics and that sort of thing, and also mixtures of like Uncharted and Tomb Raider with climbing and exploring. It like has such a great blend of mixtures, and one of the best Star Wars games you can play right now. Next up, we got Star Wars Battlefront 2, and this is also on Game Pass. And a lot of people are going to say, well, this game was shit. And in all honesty, at launch, it was plagued with too many loot crates, microtransactions, pay to win, and it was just built like after many years and developers changed and added so many new maps and things, the game has come along and moved all the loot crates and pay to win moments out of the game. It's become a really fun Battlefront game. It still hasn't replaced how that classic 2005 Battlefront 2 was, but it became a really fun game. Unfortunately, how it launched and everything, it's turned a lot of players off, but there's still a lot of fun to be had here, and the game is absolutely beautiful graphically. Next up, we got Star Wars Squadrons, another game on Game Pass. And just if you love flying, you're always fascinated about flying in Star Wars and you want to be a pilot like Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker or any of the great pilots, Poe Dameron, whichever Star Wars you love the most, it's a really good jet fighter game that's really fun. If you're expecting more out of it, no, that's generally what it is. And you can play with players online, create matches and things like that to fight alongside. It's got really great aerial combat. So if you are into planes and that stuff in Star Wars, it's a great option. And next one, we got Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Now this came out recently in December to Game Pass, and what a great gem of a game. There's all the arcs of Star Wars, including Mandalorian as a season pass deal as well. There's so much Star Wars to explore here. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, maybe you're not a Lego game, try this out. There's so much. This is the best Lego Star Wars game and maybe one of the best Lego games of all time, in my opinion, and I absolutely love it. The exploration, the collectibles around that classic Lego sort of style, and so many characters throughout Star Wars to unlock and to choose. And every time you finish a different patch, you can go again and explore the entire galaxy with any character from any time and just find more collectibles, do this, build things. It's just a great Star Wars game and a great Lego game. It's just a great mixture of both, and it's a really worthy game to play. Next up, we got Knights of the Old Republic, and this is one of the greatest classic Star Wars games, my favorite Star Wars games of all time. It is not on Game Pass, but oh man, this is such a great game. The best Star Wars story, or one of the best stories and dialogues created in game history. One of the greatest RPGs of all time, one of the greatest games of all time. Man, this back in the day was just something else. First one and the second one, and this whole story is just, if you haven't played it and you're a Star Wars fan, you have to try these games at least once in your life. They still hold up well due to the great story. Really, I like the combat. Some people say don't like it. It's a bit turn-based, but just the story and everything and your whole crew and people you build together around you, it's just done so spectacularly well. Next up, we got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 Sith Lords, and this is also not on Game Pass, but man, this is my favorite Knights of the Old Republic game. People say the first one, but I've just found the second one had a little bit more extra stuff and content and stuff. The story actually takes precedent after the second one, as you play an exiled Jedi that's been cut off from the Force, and you start regaining your power again and finding the Force again. There's many great Sith Lords to fight in the game. The story is just beyond epic. And just like in the first one, every decision you make counts towards the light side, good side, and it influences completely your teammates, your whole crew. It just depends the way you want to play. You want to be good, you want to be bad, and there's certain ways you can be even neutral in some ways. It's a brilliant Star Wars game. Next up, we got Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and you play as Darth Starkiller, and you're pretty much Darth Vader's apprentice. It takes precedent, obviously, again after Revenge of the Sith and how Vader and Palpatine have taken over, and you are this apprentice. The combat is super satisfying, and I think this game built a huge precedent of what Jedi Fallen Order has become. This was one of the best action Star Wars games back in the day, action RPGs as it were. And just a great gem of a game, really fun story and like a really cool different approach to Star Wars, and you're a little bit way overpowered in this game, and the way you can use force powers and stuff I think hasn't been done in any Star Wars game. Like Jedi Fallen Order is a great new Star Wars game and everything, but this game, just the force powers, the moves you can do were like crazy good, and it stands to the test of time that Force Unleashed is still a really great game to come back to and play after all these years. Another great Star Wars game. Next up we got Force Unleashed 2, and this one just pretty much builds upon what the first one did. Continues the story after the first one. Some people like the first one more than the second one. I think it was a really good sequel and a really fun game as well at that. There was a little bit more stuff to do. At the time, graphically looked really amazing compared to the first one. It did improve on a lot of things. And I just love the story. It's a very different, unique approach. And what if you were Vader's apprentice and there were other things at the time? And just it continues that story from the first one really well. I don't want to spoil any other things if someone hasn't played this really great Star Wars game. And I do always recommend, go check it out. If you haven't played it, it is on Xbox, it is on PC, and you can get them even on Switch now. Force Unleashed is just a really great Star Wars game to always check out and not come back to. The combat for me was one of the most satisfying combats in Star Wars games. Next up, you got Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. And what a fun classic Star Wars game this is when it came out. It just got such satisfying combat. The whole game can be played co-op, and it just takes the story of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith as you play through it. But the key thing, what made this game so great, what is really satisfying movesets, combat, and you can play like a fighting game, so you had cooperative versus modes as well. It's just a great Star Wars game. Next up we got Star Wars Jedi Knight Academy, and arguably the best lightsaber combat in any Star Wars game, and just a game that's just so old now and that just stood the test of time, how good the combat and the fighting and the movement in this game for such an old game. You can play this online against other people to this day, and it's on pretty much every system now, and it's just a great Star Wars game, great lightsaber game in a way, if that sense. And next up we got Jedi Knight Academy 2, Jedi Outcast, and a lot of people prefer the first one. I also enjoyed the second one. I mean, I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, and just builds upon as well on things of the first one. I do find also the first one being a little bit better, but it's still another great game to check out and play. And like I said, the best combat of lightsaber combat I've played to this day. Maybe Jedi Fallen Order's got really good combat that can come close to it. Next up we got Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I remember playing this as a kid, and I remember capturing Episode 1 how pod racing is. It's just such a good racing game, Star Wars racing game, and it just, oh man, this is such a classic. It brings me a lot of memories, this game, it really does. And just the way it was done so well. It was so satisfying. There were even upgrades to the ship and things like that. It's just such a great pod racing game, and I can't see why there hasn't been a new one like this in the future, or something on the long lines of just Star Wars, because as we know, Star Wars is so popular. Anyway, it's a great classic to always check out. Next up we got Star Wars Battlefront 2 2005. Now this game doesn't look this good, just to clarify for people, it is a 2005 game. It's just this is a bit of a remastered trailer project type of thing. Just I couldn't find the best looking trailer, and this really looked good. So, but anyways, going back to this, what a time to be in 2005 and play this. I mean, I was a little kid, I was still in primary school, and this was just a crazy game to play for me. I mean, someone who's always loved Star Wars so much, and just after Episode 1, 2, and 3, and growing up watching Star Wars, man, this was just an epic journey. It built upon what Battlefront 1, the original one, was, and this is just like puts to shame how 2017 Battlefront 2 couldn't capture what this game did. And just the maps, the different troops, there were not too many skins and loot. There was no such thing as loot boxes. The game came finished, came perfect. Hero versus villain modes. Everything, even the first person shooting, third person shooting, whichever way you wanted to play, was so polished and done this day. You can literally switch this game on now in 2023, and it will still be such a good experience. And last on the list we have Star Wars Republic Commando. Oh, this was such a great game as well. You know, this Battlefront just had such great shooting as well in a sense, and this just took it to another level. We're playing Republic Commando. The missions were really good. Shooting was really good for a really old school FPS shooter, really. And it just builds upon that lore of Star Wars and exploration and things to do. You know, not every Star Wars game has to be about Sith and Jedi and lightsabers and stuff. And this was such a refreshing thing to that. And they still haven't captured a game like this Star Wars game since. I mean, there's nothing like Republic Commando. You know, I don't know if there is other first-person shooter Star Wars games. I'm sure there are, but none of them come even close to how good this game was. And obviously, with graphically wise, it's a bit of an old game, but I always suggest you play this game because it's just so good. Last on the list, which is not technically Star Wars Jedi Fallen Survivor, and this is coming 20th of April to Xbox Series X and X. So it's only for next gen consoles. Unfortunately, if you're on the previous gen consoles, you won't be able to play this. And this is obviously the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, and it's called Jedi Fallen Survivor, and just looks epic. I don't like putting lists on here that the games have not released yet, but so from far as I can see, unless there's some huge technical issues or some weird pay to win, you never know, it's an EA game. But it looks so good. It looks like it's just going to be just what Jedi Fallen Order was, just even better, I think. And just the combat looks epic. Everything looks so spectacular. The graphics have been improved. The story, I think, is going to be very interesting again. And I really enjoyed everything. I love the Dark Souls combat, the jumping of like Uncharted and Tomb Raider and exploration. It's just such a great blend of everything into a Star Wars game. And I can talk about this game all the time. And so many new interesting things that are coming, and I can't wait to play this. And hopefully it's going to be good, and I believe it's really going to be good. I don't think it's going to bomb, but you never know, you know, but 99% sure I think this is going to be a great sequel to the first game and another amazing Star Wars game to add to the list and to play. Thank you again, guys, for watching. I hope you liked this list. Leave a comment below what's your favorite Star Wars game, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.